When the Light Fades, Part 3. One night, just after midnight, the church bells began to ring on their own. The sound was jarring and unnatural, waking the villagers from their sleep. People rushed out of their homes, looking towards the church, where the bell continued to toll, though no one was inside. Nathaniel, his heart racing, grabbed a lantern and ran to the church, pushing through the crowd that had gathered outside. As he opened the door and stepped inside, the cold air hit him like a slap in the face. The church was eerily quiet, except for the bell that still rang. His footsteps echoed as he approached the altar. There, in the dim light, he saw something that made his blood run cold. A single red ribbon tied around the base of the pulpit. The villagers, now terrified, began to turn their backs on Nathaniel. Mothers no longer let their children play near the church. Men whispered about curses and demons. Even Nathaniel's closest confidants in the church council distanced themselves. The once proud pastor, who had been the moral compass of Olukore, was now the center of gossip, fear, and suspicions. Gracie's condition worsened. She lay in bed, feverish and frail. Her once vibrant spirit reduced to weak murmurs of prayers. Nathaniel spent sleepless nights by her side, praying for redemption, for an end to the torment, but he received no answer. Then late one night, there was a knock on the door. Nathaniel opened the door, and there stood Mariam, but she wasn't alone. By her side was a boy, no older than 17, with her same piercing eyes. She introduced him as Kola, her son. Nathaniel felt his heart stop. This was the son he had abandoned, the boy he had never known. "I told you, Nathaniel," Mariam said, her voice cold and measured. "You can't run from your past." Kola stepped forward, his gaze never leaving Nathaniel's. "You left me. You left us. And now I'm here for what you owe." Nathaniel staggered back, unable to comprehend the weight of his sins standing before him. The guilt was suffocating. He tried to speak, but his voice cracked. What could he say to the boy he had forsaken? Mariam, sensing his weakness, stepped closer. "You have taken what's not yours, Pastor, and it's time you paid for your sins. And it's not just money, it's blood." The next day, the village awoke to find the church doors nailed shut. A note was pinned to the wall. "Judgment has come." Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said Mariam had cursed the church. Others claimed they saw dark figures lurking around the village at night. And then, one by one, the villagers began falling ill. Mysterious fevers that no doctor could explain. Nathaniel's mind unraveled. He could no longer pray. His voice failed him every time he tried. The light he once saw in his soul had dimmed completely. He became a shadow of the man he had been, walking the streets like a ghost, his eyes hollow and haunted. In desperation, he sought out an elder priest in the neighboring village, hoping to find a way to lift the curse. The priest listened to Nathaniel's confession and sighed deeply. "The light fades, my son, for those who abandon it. Your sin is not only against God, but against your own soul." Nathaniel pleaded for forgiveness, but the priest shook his head. "Forgiveness is not mine to give. You must atone for what you have done." With nowhere else to turn, Nathaniel returned to Olukore, where his final confrontation with Mariam awaited. The storm had come as lightning flashed across the sky. Nathaniel stood before Mariam one last time. He knelt before her, tears streaming down his face. begging for mercy, not for himself, but for the village and his dying wife. But Mariam only smiled, a smile devoid of warmth. It's too late, Nathaniel. The light has faded. And just like that, Mariam turned and walked away, her son by her side, disappearing into the storm. Nathaniel returned home to find Grace had passed away in her sleep. A peaceful smile on her face. The village buried her, but Nathaniel was no longer the pastor they had once known. The church doors remained shut, the bells silent. Olukore would never forget the man who had once brought them light, and how when that light faded, darkness consumed them all. The end. Like, comment, share, and subscribe for more stories.